Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engage in Trade. Today's webinar is Going Global with the Missouri Department of Agriculture. My name is Susan Spitz, and I am the Manager of International Business here at the World Trade Center of St. Louis. Thanks for joining us today for this informative discussion. There are so many things that our Missouri Department of Agriculture does, including a tremendous amount of support for exporting for companies that make any products related to agriculture, including things like spirits and packaged food products, which was a surprise to me when I first started working with them. So we're looking forward to this discussion. Just a few housekeeping rules to let you know about. All participants will be muted for the duration of the presentation. However, if you wish to ask questions, please do so by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. There is a chat button and there's a Q&A button. Please use the Q&A button and put your questions in there. We will do our best to get to those at the end of the presentation. Also, the slides and a recording of this presentation will be available a few days after the webinar is completed, and it will be sent out to everyone who has registered. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the Deputy Director of the World Trade Center, St. Louis, and my boss, Stella Sheehan. Stella has been with the World Trade Center for over 18 years, and she leads the trade team and is serving as our webmaster today. So she's got double duty here. She's going to introduce our speaker, and she's also putting up the slides. So Stella has leads our executive certificate in international trade, which is our online export training. She oversees our 16 sister cities, and she is the executive producer of our signature event, Growing Global. Stella was born and raised in Ireland and has lived, worked, and studied extensively in international markets, including Belgium, France, Italy, and the UK. She holds a BA in French and Italian from the National University of Ireland, Galway, and an MA in Applied Languages for Business from the University of Ulster at Coleraine in Northern Ireland. She's a graduate of Leadership St. Louis, and she serves on the Missouri District Export Council as well. And as I always say, she's the wind beneath the wings of our executive director, Tim Nowak, who's also in the audience with us today. So shout out to you, Tim. And so now Stella will give a brief overview of World Trade Center's work and introduce our speaker. So over to you, Stella.
Thank you so much, Susan, for that gracious introduction. And thank you to all of you for joining us as we approach the dog days of summer here. Just going to switch over to our speaker slide here. So just bear with me for just a moment. All right, there we go. So today's event, of course, is one we have been wanting to do for quite some time. So we're very excited that it has come to fruition, so to speak. Agriculture, of course, being such an important sector for the state of Missouri and giving rise, as it does, to so much innovation in the ag tech space, both here in St. Louis and abroad. And as Susan mentioned, I lead the trade side of the house, and we like to say that the World Trade Center has three main pillars: people, trade, and investment. The three key equal ingredients which go into making up a global city. The people side consists of our 16 sister cities and perhaps our most well-known initiative, the St. Louis Mosaic Project, headed up by my colleague Suzanne Sierra. And that is an initiative to attract foreign-born to the region and assist them by way of programming and networking once they get here. The trade side provides companies with the tools they need to trade internationally by way of counseling, referrals to our federal and state partners like Taylor, and organizing educational events like the one you're attending today. And last but certainly not least, our foreign direct investment, or FDI pillar, led by my colleague Sean Mullins, assists companies around the globe who may be interested in setting up their North American base in the St. Louis region, while simultaneously assisting foreign companies who've already chosen St. Louis and wish to expand and continue to invest here. And I should also mention that Sean is also responsible for our foreign trade zone. So a very important area of our work currently, as there's a renewed interest in that particular initiative. So now to the introduction of our speaker. I'm delighted to introduce Taylor Adamic. Taylor is the Program Manager, Domestic and International Marketing for the Missouri Department of Agriculture. She has always had a passion for ag and is originally from a rural area south of Denver, Colorado, where she was actively involved in the beef industry. She completed a bachelor's degree in agricultural communications from West Texas A&M University, Canyon, Texas. She later moved to Missouri and joined the Missouri Department of Ag in September of 2021. She serves as the program manager of the Domestic and International Program, where she focuses on promoting Missouri's diverse agricultural products throughout the US and around the globe. Taylor continues to make it her goal to advocate for the agricultural industry and help agribusinesses succeed. Over to you, Taylor.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate being on here today. This webinar series put on by the St. Louis World Trade Center is just a great example of how many resources are out there for your export journey. And so we're going to talk specifically about ag products today, and we're going to jump right in to what the Missouri Department of Agriculture is doing in that sector. And we'll go ahead and get some slides pulled up for you and start with the presentation. So yeah, thanks again to everyone who is hosting me. We have some wonderful partners in the state of Missouri to help Missouri agribusinesses, small entrepreneurs, get involved in exporting, growing their business. We all know that exporting is beneficial. We all know that it's important to focus and diversify your incomes, whether your domestic lines kind of go south, you still have your international customers to rely on. And so the benefits of trade really are strong. And we're going to talk a little bit about how the Missouri Department of Agriculture can help you get there from the ag standpoint. So as a whole, we are a pretty big department. We're a state government office. And through that, we have several programs that the Office of the Director, which is led by Chris Chin, what she handles. And so there are sectors like animal health, plant industries, some grain stuff, weights and measures, which falls into that consumer protection, and then the agriculture business development. And so when we look a little bit into what those programs do, they all specify in something related to that. So if you look at animal health, you're looking at the meat and poultry inspection, plus several others, but that's a great, example of what that division does. They're really taking care of, those raw meat and poultry acts, making sure it's safe as they enter the food, the commercial industry. And then you got the plant industry side, and they do quite a few things from plant and pest control, pesticides and stuff, but they also help get you a commercial license for feed. So if you're looking to sell feed, think of pet food, think of, livestock feed. They can help you obtain a license. The grain inspection, Missouri is a heavy grain state, not only corn and soybeans, but for example, we also have peanut production further south. And so they help inspect those peanuts as they go in to the food chain as well. And then for the weights and measures, they are out there certifying that scales are accurate. And one of those programs is the fuel device safety, going around certifying gas pumps. You will see a sticker of the state of Missouri on each gas pump throughout the state to make sure that the pumps and everything is accurate. And so as you see here, it is a lot of regulatory. There's inspections, there's licenses, everything regulatory to help a Missouri producer meet the standards to protect Missouri consumers, whether it's at the fuel pump or in the grocery store. And so that's really a key takeaway here, is that most of the Department of Agriculture is focused on regulatory. However, we do have one section that is focused on marketing, and that falls under ag business development. And so we're really going to dive into that marketing section today during this webinar. So the first one is the domestic program. It's also labeled as our state branded program, Missouri Grown. And Missouri Grown is a great opportunity for small agribusinesses, small to medium-sized agribusinesses in the state. They have that online database that, is able to identify to Missouri consumers, hey, this was made in my state. And so you can go onto their website and find products that are made here. You can become a member of this program to promote your product that's made in Missouri. And so they do a really good job connecting those producers to consumers within Missouri. Then they also the domestic team focuses on a little bit of other stuff, like implementing farm to school programs, using locally grown ag products throughout the state in some of these Missouri schools. And then there's also a program to help with the farmers market in St. Louis, the farmers market in Kansas City. Those are all kind of programs that get a head start with the Missouri Department of Agriculture, specifically in this marketing ag business developments division. And then our final one is market news. And so we find this really important to Missouri farmers and ranchers to keep up with the market, whether it's based on grains or livestock. We track all this in the state, and then we release, updates weekly and summaries. And so this is really good information. We're here to serve Missouri agribusinesses, whether you're a commodity trader or you have jams and jellies from your home, that kind of thing. And then finally, we'll just dive into my program. So like she said, I am Taylor Adamick. I'm with the Missouri Department of Agriculture on the domestic and international side. And so our international team or side does take heavy influence here. And a lot of teams for international will tend to focus on region, whether it's, the Asia, South America region. Our team takes a bit of a different strategy, and we focus on agriculture commodity. And so we have 4 categories that we split our team into: the forestry industry, forest products. We've got the grains, oils, fiber crops, the cropping industry, like the farming industry, corn, soybeans. Then we've got that food and beverage, more of your urban agriculture sector, and then our, big livestock, genetics, animal reproduction, that kind of thing. And with that, we have a full team to support these activities and goals. And so we have Abby Dowden, who is specifically focused on some of those food and beverage events and agendas. And so if you see something that interests you today in a particular event, you can reach out to me or one of my team members, and we'll help provide more details on that. Dallas Brashears is our marketing specialist focused on grains and forestry. He's helping plan those events and really knows the details of how to export your forestry products. And then we have our director, Jill Wood, and we are actually fortunate enough to have Jennifer Clee-Thermos on our team as an extra help, and then Hank Ma, who is helps with the Asian market over there in Taiwan. So a pretty fortunate team here at the Missouri Department of Ag to help you with your exporting journey. And so as we talk about services to these agribusinesses on the exporting side, we really can't get anywhere without the help of our resources and state partners, international partners. And so we look at all these things, or all these other organizations we can turn to. World Trade Center is a great example. Today, we're on a webinar engaging that partnership, spreading the news, being more of a resource for agribusinesses in Missouri. We also have good relationships with SBDC and MU. However, if we look at the national side, there's several other organizations like the American Hardwood Export Council, AHEC, USMEF, United States Meat Export. They focus on the red meat exports of the US Soybean Export Council. So there is a federal nonprofit organization that we rely on for each commodity. And we have relationships built, and so we can take them from the state level, use these resources from these national services to the next level as well. So it's just really great to be able to have such a wide connection of industry experts in international trade. Some other services that we provide. If you're interested in getting involved with us, we do a lot of events. So we're talking inbound and outbound trade missions. We host people. We take people to different countries. These are trade missions that provide that opportunity for business and educational experiences. We've also got the domestic trade shows, international trade shows, whether those fall in the food and beverage or the forestry. We're attending those trade shows and we're helping you even attend yourself. And so those are really great events that put you in front of that global, consumer, that global audience. And then as an added bonus, we can help you obtain that export documentation if it's an ag product. So certificates of free sale, health and sanitary. We provide those for Missouri headquartered or manufacturing businesses on ag products. Again, the food, fuel, and fiber. That's what we're looking for. And we can help you achieve some of that documentation for customs and such. So as we tap into our sectors, let's really look at these and how, they affect Missouri ag businesses. So the livestock sector is kind of heavily focused on that beef industry. So we've got, a lot of cattle in Missouri. We're a third in beef cows. And some of those breeds are some of those, well-recognized beef cattle breeds. So Angus, Hereford, Charolais, that kind of thing. And we use funding from one of our partners, the U.S. Livestock Genetic Export Group. And so we are able to kind of perform some of those activities to help engage with livestock trade. And so, for example, in these pictures you'll see on your slide, we took a delegation to Mexico. They were able to help work a booth at an international livestock trade show. They were able to do ranch visits. So they went to producers who are looking to import embryos, semen from the US to improve their quality of their herd. And so we were able to go visit them and establish those relationships. You'll see that, we take people out of the country for these missions, but we also bring them in. We host people in the States in the livestock sector to tour Missouri farms and ranches. A lot of our guys in Missouri who are farmers and ranchers are interested in also sending their genetics out of the country. They have a pretty good, market here in the States and maybe throughout the US, but they can also send it to Ecuador, Mexico, Argentina to continue to increase some of their business. So the livestock one is pretty heavy on beef cattle. As we dive into like forestry products, these are really good examples of bringing people in. And so Missouri is a leading state for hardwood lumber and, hardwood production. We've got the logs, the wooden cask and barrels, those white oak staves are used for wine production in France, Italy, and Spain. And then walnut, that black walnut tree that is grown in Missouri can be harvested and used for furniture production in Southeast Asia. And so a great example of that is some of these inbound trade missions. So again, these are all ways that Missouri Department of Agriculture can be a resource to you. We can put you in front of several buyers and distributors without a cost to your company. And so that's really helpful as we're really expanding your global outreach as a free service as a government agency. And so, for example, we bring quite a few people in from Southeast Asia in that furniture manufacturing space, looking for the black walnut, the red oak, white oak, to be able to make that high quality furniture over there in the Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia examples of that. And so you'll see in these pictures, we brought a group here and they visited sawmills throughout the US. And this was a great opportunity for Missouri businesses to make connections and eventually sell, containers worth of lumber over to Southeast Asia. On the grain side, it's really the same thing. We keep connecting people to buyers. We keep connecting our Missouri ag suppliers to international customers. And so you can see here that we have a group coming in to look at a high stack of DDGs. They're here for feed ingredients. A lot of these countries that we're talking to do not have the agricultural production that the US does. The US is so extremely efficient and effective with agriculture production. And so we need to be able to export it. And a lot of these countries don't have the resources to manage beef production or poultry production without importing those feed ingredients to, feed ingredients, feed additives to feed their own in-country ag production. They need our resources on the feed side. And so you'll see that we also have those national partnerships that help us grow that outreach. So, the Export Council for Soybeans, Grain has they represent all U.S. grains internationally. We use some of these resources to help establish the buyers to connect our Missouri businesses to. And so you'll see it is a lot of events back and forth with building relationships, bringing people in, taking people out, and we see it really grows over time. And then one of our more fun ones is definitely the food and beverage. So the packaged processed foods, snacks, all that stuff really falls into, again, that food, fuel, and fiber mission of the Missouri Department of Agriculture. And so we're looking at, like Susan said earlier, that wine, beer, and spirits sector. We've got the snack foods, pretzels, barbecue sauce, rubs for meat, that kind of stuff, all can be a chance to get exported and grow your business. You'll see here that this is someone at a Missouri or a domestic trade show. That trade show is the National Restaurant Association in Chicago, Illinois. And so we have booth space there a company was able to apply and attend and, represent their show at half the cost that they would if they did it on their own, because they went through Missouri Department of Agriculture. So there's incredible ways to get involved. Like I said, if you're interested in trade shows or trade missions, you can always be a host on a trade mission, travel out of the country with us, or again, take advantage of these trade shows. We have an international show coming up. We do a couple domestic shows throughout the year, and we cover the booth space. So it makes it easier if you're trying to get your feet wet and growing your product globally, you can attend these trade shows on behalf of the Missouri Department of Agriculture. And then another membership, again, using those national memberships that we really like to tote quite a bit, is the food export, specifically the Midwest version of it. And so what they do is they are much like the Missouri Department of Agriculture. They're here to really take those small to medium-sized businesses and help them grow globally. Now, they are working as, the entire U.S., where we're focused on just Missouri, but there is opportunities out there for our Missouri companies to take advantage of what they have to offer, because as you'll see here, they have several in-market representatives. These are people boots on the ground in country that can help our Missouri businesses figure out what's a good mix. You want to send a beef snack stick to Taiwan. Well, that's not really going to work because they don't have, like the patability or the taste for processed beef. However, it might work really well you go into Brazil, South America, that kind of thing. Some drinks that might go over really well in the US might be too sweet for Europe. And so these in-market representatives really help you know the region and can see if your product's going to fit. And so how they help is taking, again, those people who are ready to export, dive into the journey with that education. So they can provide, several webinars and such, and then they can get you in touch with those market entry, those beginning steps of what my product looks like in this market. So getting you in touch with buyers, getting you in touch with the regulations on importing. And then it goes into, okay, I want to start doing stuff. I want to start attending trade shows. I want to start testing the water. They have a program where you can apply up to 50% for reimbursement. Yep, it's up to 50% of reimbursement on those international or those activities you do. And so again, just a cost share funding program really seals the deal of like, hey, let's take your exporting journey to the next step. we've got you set up with your education. We kind of have a market for you in mind with some buyers. Let's really get you in a trade show or on a trade mission, and we'll help alleviate those costs. And again, this is all done by the federal government, which trickles down to the state government, which is here as a program to assist our Missouri agribusinesses. So if we're diving into some of these, yeah, these exporter education really taps into the webinars and like creating, getting involved in that advisor program, saying, what do I need to do? Does my packaging need to be completely relabeled in a different language? Do I need a sticker to show it's high in sugar? All these things that, come up as you're doing your export journey, they can help kind of navigate through that. And then that market entry. And so there's quite a few events as well that they put on to get you in front of those buyers. And so you can attend the buyer's mission, which the state of Missouri really promotes. A buyer's mission is set up similar to, we like to call it a speed dating operation. You sit for a little bit with one country, a representative from one country, and you kind of move around the table. And our staff helps put quite a few of these on because we find the value of, hey, give me your 15-minute pitch on your product, and we'll report back if this is going to go over well in our country. And so that's a real bang for your buck because they have a really established network of retailers, distributors, importers, trying to buy those food and beverage products. And the amount you can see in a short amount of time is really beneficial. And then they have trade missions, and you can get virtually talk to someone as well. And then again, following that final step is like, you've got your marketing plan together, you're really established in a company or a country, you think you want to know where you want to go. There is that cost share program that allows you to cover some of those expenses on a reimbursable basis. And again, we all know that covering this, getting samples shipped or pamphlets made and stuff like that is a big expense on our Missouri businesses. And so any way that there's a funding stream is very helpful. And then some of these eligible expenses that come in is like that website and social media, the travel for trade shows, and sending samples and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that program, we can really help you dive into it. But that is just another example of how we use our national and state partners to help Missouri businesses. And then finally, one of our things that we do at the Missouri Department of Agriculture, taking a step back into the department itself, is helping issue that export documentation. And so we've got that certificate of free sale, the certificate of health and sanitary, good manufacturing. We can do those if you are headquartered or have a facility in Missouri. And so it is a free service, which is super nice. Again, this exporting journey takes time and expenses, and people are often intimidated by the paperwork and the process. However, there's resources out there that really break it down for you and often are easier to navigate, such as this one, applying for your export certificates. It's a free charge in an application process. And then another thing we like to highlight at the Missouri Department of Agriculture is just Hank Ma is our direct link to Asia. And so we have an office in Taiwan, and he has worked with Missouri for several years, almost, I think he's like 30 years. So has been promoting Missouri products, again, that boots on the ground in the Asia, Southeast Asia realm. And again, he helps attend some trade shows out there. If you send the Department of Agriculture samples, we will forward them to Taiwan, and then he will promote them at trade shows. For example, the Taipei International Food Show is this weekend, and Hank will have booth space there displaying Missouri products, whether it's black walnuts or heritage rice. He will have products there and be able to represent those Missouri companies. He can also identify those trade leads. As he gets interest, he can vet those trade leads, who's going to be qualified and who's not, and he'll send them back to our office for us to distribute to the Missouri companies. And so it's just a great opportunity, again, to really hatch into that Asia market. As we talk about markets, you'll see that, Southeast Asia is one of our stronger ones. And then as we talk about just agriculture exports in general and kind of like what the goal is for Missouri Department of Agriculture and Missouri as a state, we see we're sending quite a bit of product down to Mexico, Canada, and then it kind of gets scattered around, but you'll see that Southeast Asia really come into play with Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. And so those products that we're sending, no surprise here, corn and soybeans. Missouri has so much corn and soybeans, almost up to $400 million worth of value of soybeans is being exported from the state of Missouri. And then a lot of our other ag products include that forest products. You'll see that's number 4. Forestry products are huge, and we really want to promote that. And so that is our 4th largest export on the ag side. We do get pet food as well. And then, like some of those dairy products and stuff. And this really compares to the U.S. Agriculture exports. When we look at Missouri, we are in the heart of the agriculture region of the country. And so you'll see that, those U.S. ag markets are really in line with Missouri as a state. So U.S. is really a top partner with Canada, Mexico, and China as well. And then their ag products, again, are going to be that corn, soybean, and beef. And so it's no surprise there that Missouri is coming in with being a contributor to those national exports. And so that's, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up just a bit early, but feel free to connect with us on any of those social media sites and stuff. And once again, just really wanted to highlight what the Missouri Department of Agriculture does and those resources we can provide. Working with all of our state partners and all of our resources here in this state, we can really help your export journey not seem so intimidating. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Taylor. I'm sure we're going to have some questions. I've seen from the number of participants that everybody has stayed on. They're very eager to hear about all the, I just was so amazed at the breadth of services and then the types and varieties of products that you can work with. And as you were going through your presentation, there are a couple of things I wanted to chime in on as well. You probably know this, but our audience may not know that there's actually a live animal penning area at the St. Louis Lambert Airport. So for companies that are actually shipping live animals, which, as you mentioned, more typically what gets shipped is the semen or something for breeding. But there are occasions where I believe we've literally made pigs fly to Brazil. So that's one other service that's available. Also wondered if you could potentially just mention a little bit about what that certificate of free sale meant, because if people don't have that already, they may not understand.
Yeah, definitely. And so, the St. Louis airport is a great aspect. And it just goes to show you Missouri is so great for trade, being a business located here. We've got the water, the rail, and now the airfare to help get even ag products. And so when you're looking at exporting and you go to a country that, needs some of that documentation, the certificate of free sale is probably pretty common. It wants to state, hey, we're about to sell these products in our country, but we want to know if they're safe in the US. And so we provide a certified letter, certificate, document that says, these are sold in the US. They comply with the USDA and the safety regulations for the US. And so therefore, they're safe for you to sell in your country as well. And so when they come to us with a request for a certificate of free sale, we really need an invoice showing, yep, I've sold these products to Walmart in Georgia, or I've sold these products to Schnucks in St. Louis. And so that really helps say, yep, this product and this company is complying with the standards of meeting, you know, food safety services or food safety regulations in the US. And so therefore you can go ahead and export it and sell it freely in your country as well.
Thank you. Do you ever get involved in certificates of origin?
Certificates of origin are not us.
Okay.
We do not do those. But I know several, I mean, yeah, World
Yeah,
Trade
we've got
Center.
local, in fact, the World Trade Center is looking into beginning to offer that certification, because
Yeah,
there are fewer agencies in our region that offer that certificate of origin than there have been in years past. So
yeah,
and a reminder, I believe Stella mentioned this, but the World Trade Center, even though our name is World Trade Center St. Louis, we actually cover the whole state of Missouri, with the exception of Kansas City, because there's another World Trade Center there.
yes.
And I know you partner with both of us, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we're always, yeah, looking to kind of get those certificates of origin. They are a bit trickier to get a hold of. So
Yeah, so if anybody's got a question about that, we can help with that. A reminder to put any questions that you have in the Q&A section. I don't see any open questions at the moment, so feel free to go ahead and put some questions in there. Would you talk about kind of what would be next steps if somebody, let's say somebody has never exported before, but they have a product that would fall under your areas of expertise? What would be the best way
yeah,
to,
definitely.
who should they be talking to?
Yeah, definitely. So they can just come to our team and kind of explain that what they want to do. A lot of the time we see, for example, on a food and beverage company. So I'll take one example, a barbecue sauce out of Colombia. Show Me Barbecue was interested in exporting their product, but they really needed to get in touch with that global audience. And
Mhm.
so Missouri Department of Ag covers booth space at the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago, Illinois. And so we have 4 booths that we pay for the booth space. The company can then go. They do have to pay for their travel and getting their samples out there and setting up their booth, but they can go to that trade show without having to pay for booth space and promote their products. And at this trade show, it is considered an international trade show by the USDA. So there is a level of international buyers walking this show. Then they start to get connections. Well, I'm from Costa Rica and we're seeing a lot more people starting to barbecue and grill. I really would like a sauce in my restaurant. So then they make the connection at the Chicago restaurant show, and then it's business from there. Show Me Barbecue Sauce will follow up, and then the company will, and you just start quoting business from there. And so that is a really good way to get started, is just attending those trade shows. The one thing I will say is when we're looking at selecting those companies, we really want to make sure they have enough volume. The trade shows that the Missouri
Yeah, that
Department
was
of
gonna be my
Agriculture,
question. Yeah.
yeah, the Missouri Department of Agriculture does attend those big trade shows. And so we do want to make sure you have enough volume to be able to like sample that 4 days that you're there, as well as when you get that international or even a domestic inquiry that you're able to fill the order. Now, a new program that we did launch that is not in this slideshow that I will go ahead and plug really quick right now is the Missouri Scholarship Trade Show Program. So again, you're applying for a trade show space. However, it's a trade show of your choice. And so if the Missouri Department of Agriculture has trade shows that are too big, too overwhelming for your business, you can tell us which trade show you want to go to, and we can give you a reimbursement, 50% reimbursement up to $2,000 for booth space. And again, that helps saying, well, I don't want to go to the Chicago restaurant show. It's too big, but I do want to go to the Hy-Vee show in St. Louis, or I do want to go to, a regional convenience store show in Georgia. The booth space can then be paid for by yourself, but you can apply to get some of those costs alleviated through the Missouri Department of Agriculture. And so we've seen that trade show. It just got kicked off, hasn't caught a whole lot of attention or ground yet, but we're starting to, get some success stories behind it, because again, some of these trade shows that we're going with Food Export's going to, are pretty massive international based trade shows. And so if you don't have the supply or you're not quite there yet, you can pick a trade show of yourself and apply for some of those, money.
Great. A reminder, speaking of plugging things, one of the other partners that we work with closely is the Missouri Economic Development. They have an international trade office and they have similar programs. We've certainly, promoted those programs before, but for anybody in the audience who, for whatever reason doesn't have a product that qualifies for Missouri Department of Ag, there are similar programs available through the state of Missouri. So
yeah, definitely. I will add that they do export documentation as well, but it's going to be those non-ag products. So if you're trying to export engines or makeup, you can get that free sale from them. They do have a cost share reimbursement program as well. And so we do use DED quite a bit. They are a sister agency of the state government, but just on the manufacturing, more consumer goods, not so much the food, fuel, and fiber aspect of agriculture.
yeah. And as you had said, that Missouri, I think you said this in one of our practice sessions, but Missouri is very blessed in terms of the size of the team and the amount of resources. And I would say that's the same too on the international, the MoDED.
Yeah.
And here we have somebody asking that very question. Let me see. Thank you, Taylor, for a very informative overview. How does Missouri stack up against other states in programs and incentives for exporters?
Yeah, definitely. And so I think, every state department has an international staff, which they're trying to promote the ag products. So if you look across the region, Kansas obviously is going to come in heavy with the wheat. Wisconsin really pushes their dairy products. You'll see Wisconsin cheese, Wisconsin milk, California almonds. Those all fall under the Department of Agriculture's in those states. I will say where Missouri has an advantage is our funding for a large team. And so international staff can be a bit thin on some of these other states, maybe only having one or two, whereas our team is blessed with a full team of 4 to really focuses on those different ag commodities to help, every Missouri ag business succeed. But yeah, each state, I don't know the ranking of like Missouri is a larger ag exporter than not. Obviously there's some more rural states and less rural states, but I would say that, we are heavily supported with ag trade and we find the value in it. And so we have a large team and, we find those commodities and products that work well for us and we help them export.
Yeah, thank you. Another thought that I had, because I know this is the way that department would look at it too, as you're sort of determining which companies are adequately prepared, shall we say, to get to that trade show level. If they're new to exporting, do you require like an export plan or anything like that? And then that might bring in some of the other partners that you and we both work with.
Yeah, definitely. And so the Missouri Department of Ag just kind of does things a bit old fashioned. We just really hop on a meeting with you and we try to talk face to face and get where your levels are. Ideally, when you're coming to us, you are a little bit more ready. You may not know all the required documentation or have a buyer, but you are, ready on the supply side and maybe have some of those certificates. Those, if we're talking to you and we, work through where your level of exporting is, we can either start to send you, to that initial stage of the SBDCs. Both of our friend down there can help really with that basic education of exporting and stuff like that. And then if you are ready and you need more of complex exporting like alcohol, that's when we can send you over to our partners at World Trade Center and they can really commercial service. They can really help handle customs, handle some of that more regulatory situations that go into exporting. And so we'll connect you to who we see as a good fit to help based on your stage.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and those were the resources I was thinking of too. The SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, which are spread across the state. They've got an international director who has got this amazing program. So if you're brand new to export, that one is a really great way to kind of even figure out what questions you need to ask and answer, right, in order to be ready. So we work closely with them and I'm sure you do as well. We've got another question here. Do you see a demand for the export of fresh produce?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of this stuff in the ag side does get a little tricky as far as shelf stable. But I will say, exporting fresh produce is a growing growing industry, not necessarily from Missouri. We do see California, they just were able to establish peaches being exported to Vietnam, I believe. Anyway, so there are markets open there for fresh fruits and vegetables. And so just the demand we see coming out of Missouri hasn't been a whole lot, just because production is really dominated by row crop, for better or for worse. And so, there is opportunity there. There is some things that come into mind with shelf stableness and the certain kind of freight with logistics and cold storage and stuff like that. So it definitely is an opportunity, but we haven't seen it really kick off in Missouri as much as our coastal states do take advantage of it.
So if if the person who asked that question, if you've got fresh produce that you're considering exporting, I would say still reach out to the Department of
Yeah,
Ag and
yeah.
you
I
can find
mean,
out more.
there's definitely probably like a health and like a certificate you'll need, and we can get you in touch with a market rep.
Yeah. I personally love foraging, and pawpaws are one of my favorite things to forage for. And there's debate about whether or not we'll ever see those on grocery store shelves because of how, short the season is and how
Yeah.
quickly they don't taste like anything until they're ripe, and that
Yeah.
kind of.
And usually, that is why we're trying to establish fair trade, is like a lot of that stuff is coming up from our South American partners. And then we're sending back down, feed ingredients and stuff. So.
Okay, I think there was another question that I had or something else that I wanted to mention, and then we will switch over to talking about our upcoming programs and that kind of thing. Actually, the Missouri State Fair. Can you
Oh,
talk a little
yeah.
bit about that?
Yeah, definitely.
You
So the
organize
Missouri
it.
State Fair is coming up in August, and it is 11 days of a big highlight on agriculture in the state. And there is some of that classic fair stuff, is such as a carnival and some shows, but there is one part that sticks out to our Missouri agribusinesses, and that is in the agriculture building at the fair. There is what we call a market, and it's basically set up like a small grocery store, and you can walk in there and shop those Missouri grown products. Again, Missouri grown is our state branded program that is labeled. You get the logo, you get the sticker to identify you as you are a product made in Missouri, to help consumers say, hey, this was made in my home state. And so at this market, if you have an agriculture, food or beverage product, it's not necessarily the big commodities, corn and soybeans. It's really
Right.
those food and beverage processed food products that we see apply to be in there. And your product is on display for 11 days while people come and buy and purchase it, just like a grocery store. And so a lot of that, we will see the barbecue sauces, we will see some ice cream, we will see some rubs and seasonings, but we'll also see some soap and some like wool socks, I believe. And so more of those consumer items. And they're all, again, identified as Missouri grown. That membership is $50 a year. And it is a great way just to identify as a Missouri product. And the state fair is a huge platform. We get several visitors from around the state to the fair, and your product is on display and it is being purchased by those consumers.
That's great. And what are the dates of the fair? And is it too late for people to get involved in that, or they should just go in to get the Missouri grown certification?
Yep, they need to start by trying to become a member. And let me grab the dates of the fair.
In Sedalia, and it's late August, right?
Correct. Yep, it's August 7th through the
Oh,
17th.
early August.
So
Okay.
yeah, and it is August 7th through the 17th, and the first step is really to become that Missouri Grown Pro and into that Missouri Grown program. But if you miss the opportunity for the state fair, as soon as you get established with the membership, they do put out what we call the Missouri Holiday Box. And so it is a box of select items that is presented to Missourians to buy. So it's like a holiday Christmas box that has several Missouri goods, and we see it being sold during the holidays and used for Christmas gifts and stuff. And so that's a great way. They have several of those key big marketing opportunities for those small to medium-sized agribusinesses.
That's great. I'm glad you're able to mention that. I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
also just last weekend learned that there's a lavender farm in Wentzville. I don't know if
Correct.
you're
Yeah,
aware of
yeah.
that one. I just came back from France and Provence and the lavender fields, and now I could just go to Wentzville and see
Yeah,
them.
yeah. It is very pretty there. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Taylor, thank you so much. As I often say, I could just keep talking to you forever. I just think this stuff is so interesting, and I'm really grateful that we've got these services available to our businesses to help not only their businesses grow, but also our whole economy as a whole. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for your presentation, and we're going to talk about a couple of the upcoming events that we have. I think this was a great topic for summer too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So as far as upcoming events, our next Engage in Trade, which is in July, is going to be on a topic that's been a very hot topic recently, and that is the USMCA, which is the free trade agreement between Mexico, the US, and Canada, and how tariffs are impacting that. There are companies who, maybe in the past it didn't really make sense to get your products certified as made within the US MCA territory. Now it might make sense because it can help with some of the tariffs that are going on. So we will be talking about that on Tuesday, July 22nd. It's also a webinar. It's going to be from 12 to 1 p.m. And the registration link is live on our website right now. If you go to worldtradecenter-stl.com, and you can register for that. Also want to give everybody a heads up to get on your calendars our biggest internationally focused business event of the year in the St. Louis region, and that is our Growing Global Luncheon. This year, the date's going to be on Wednesday, September 24th. Going from 11 o'clock to 1:30 p.m. With some great networking. It has sold out for the last 2 years at 750 people. So do mark your calendars for that. This year, the theme is going to be Africa Rising. We've got some amazing things going on in terms of connections between the state of Missouri and African countries. Another thing to bear in mind is that if you join the World Trade Center membership, you are eligible for some free seating to that Growing Global Luncheon. So let me know. I am the membership manager. If you want to know more about that, feel free to reach out to me. And I think that is all we have. So looking forward to seeing everybody on a future event. Just wanted to let you know as well that at the conclusion of this webinar, you should see a survey appear in your browser. We would really appreciate your feedback on this presentation and any thoughts on future topics that you would like to learn more about. And we thank you all for your attention and participation, and wish you all the best as you look to grow your businesses through exporting. Thank you very much.